of going to the jails where it's extremely efficient, now they have to go out into the community, which is not safer. So
jeopardizing the safety of law enforcement, jeopardizing the safety of the public, and maybe just as importantly, jeopardizing the safety of the migrant, right?
100%.
Yeah, it's just, that's why I used the word dumb, I think, 3 times in my opening statement.
Welcome back to Freedom Forge, the channel where we stand for faith, freedom, secure borders, and the constitutional principles that keep America strong. If you believe government should protect American citizens first, if you believe the law should actually be enforced instead of ignored, and if you're tired of politicians putting ideology ahead of public safety, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest coverage of the biggest political battles taking place in Washington. Today's congressional hearing focused on sanctuary state policies, illegal immigration, cooperation between local law enforcement and federal immigration authorities, and the consequences those policies may have on public safety. Lawmakers questioned sheriffs and families whose loved ones were killed by individuals who were in the United States illegally. The discussion centered around whether local governments should cooperate with federal immigration enforcement through programs like 287G, which allows local law enforcement agencies to assist federal authorities in carrying out certain immigration enforcement responsibilities. The hearing quickly became one of the most emotionally charged exchanges because it combined legal policy with heartbreaking personal stories.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start with, well, let me get back to Mr. Abraham. Your daughter went to school in Ohio, is that right? I think when we talked at in our office a couple
Athens,
months
Ohio,
ago. Yeah.
Ohio University, Bobcat, yeah.
Yeah, what was she majoring in?
She was going to be marketing, yeah.
Marketing.
Yeah.
We got a big journalism school there. I wondered if she was going to be a journalist. Well, now I know she was a lovely young lady. Sheriff, your state is a sanctuary state, is that right?
Correct, sir.
Yeah, so even if you wanted to enter into these 287G agreements that Ms. Pierce was kind of alluding to, where you can work with the federal government on enforcing federal law relative to immigration, you're not allowed to do that in your state, is that right?
Correct, sir.
But you decided you're going to do the right thing.
Yes.
You're going to work with it,
Yes.
right? And guess what? If we had passed the bill that Mr. McClintock's the sponsor of, that we've already passed out of this committee, you would be protected. It says you couldn't face any kind of repercussions or consequences from the state if that law would be passed. So right now you're just doing it because it's the right darn thing to do. And is it really that hard? Ms. Pierce said it's like tough to, it's a cost on counties, and it's basically honoring the detainer notice. And my understanding is, when I've seen these notices, it's like, hey, if you're going to release so-and-so, who we know is an illegal migrant, who was in your detention center or your jail because it's been alleged he's committed some other crime, if you're going to release him, just call us, give us a heads up 48 hours before you release him. How is that an additional cost for the county or the city?
There is no cost. In fact, that's probably the most efficient way. And what I've been hearing is the federal resources have now been reallocated, and it's all because of sanctuary laws. Instead of going to the jails where it's extremely efficient, now they have to go out into the community, which is not safer. So
jeopardizing the safety of law enforcement, jeopardizing the safety of the public, and maybe just as importantly, jeopardizing the safety of the migrant, right?
100%.
Yeah, it's just, that's why I used the word dumb, I think, 3 times in my opening statement, because I've yet to figure out anything smart about this policy that is now, as I said, in almost a third of the nation, lives in a jurisdiction where that's the policy. That's just crazy. Ms. Gorman, I know it's not easy to talk about, but the individual who took your daughter's life, Jose Medina, do you know when he was apprehended by Border Patrol? May 9th, 2023, during the Biden administration, when they were letting in 10 million people. Mr. Abraham, when was the guy who took the life of your precious daughter, when was he apprehended?
He re-entered easily 2022 using false documents and aliases.
2022, during the Biden administration. They let in 10 million people, right? Just let them in. Okay, do you know what, Ms. Gorman, you know what Mr. Medina happened to say at his interview? He was apprehended by Border Patrol. You know what he happened to say at his interview? Hit your microphone, if you would, please. Thank you.
As I understand it, he was asked the standard questions on whether he was claiming asylum and whether he felt threatened or scared to return to his country. He was in Colombia at the time, and he answered negatively. No, he was not afraid. No, he was not claiming asylum, and we took him anyway. That's my understanding.
He gets asked the question, is there credible fear of persecution or harm in your country? And his answer was, no.
No.
I just want to come to the U.S. because it's great, best country ever. He just wanted to come here. And the agents and people who were doing the interview said he is likely to not show. He's likely to abscond, right?
Yep. And yet
Okay.
they gave him cashless bail after
well-
he committed crime in Chicago.
After that crime, too, I'm getting to that. So he gets charged a few months later or sometime later, he gets charged with the crime, right? Did it. They release him. They don't call. They don't have a 287G because Chicago and Illinois are sanctuary city, sanctuary state. And he gets charged with the crime that gets released. And does he show up for his court date?
Of course not.
Of course not. And did local authorities ever once think of calling ICE?
No.
No, they didn't have a sheriff like the guy sitting beside you, like Sheriff Redmond. They didn't have that. And then this terrible thing happens. And that's what we're trying to change. And I don't think, to me, I don't get it either, because it sure doesn't seem that hard to me. It seems like,
Common sense.
there you said it, common sense. And I actually think, I'm going to get real political here, but I actually think this midterm election is really, I said this in an interview the other day. You could summarize it in 2 sentences. They're crazy, we're not, right? Because this policy is crazy. And it is crazy versus common sense, as the president said. This is the most common sense thing. Just work. Let the sheriff work with you. He wants to work with you in California. Let him do it. Not be maybe violating the law for doing the common sense thing, for goodness sake. So I wanted to again thank you all for coming.
Would the gentleman yield?
I will yield the 4 seconds to the right.
I want to say I agree with you.
Well, God
One
bless
side
you.
is crazy, one doesn't.
You figured it out on your way out the door, Mr. Nadler. That is great to know.
The only question is which way.
All right, I yield back. I want to do this again, if I could, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the chairman of this subcommittee. He is the sponsor of the bill that fixes it. He has been working on this issue and so many others that are common sense things we need to do to make it work.
Hate to interrupt the chairman, but his time, especially on that subject, but his time has expired. Mr. Onder.
Watching this hearing, one thing became immediately obvious to me. This debate is no longer just about immigration policy. It is about whether elected officials are willing to put the safety of American communities ahead of political ideology. One of the strongest moments came when the congressman questioned a California sheriff whose state operates under sanctuary policies. The sheriff confirmed that California law prevents local agencies from fully cooperating with federal immigration authorities in the way many law enforcement officials would prefer. Yet despite those restrictions, the sheriff made it clear that he still believes working with federal authorities is the right thing to do. That statement deserves attention. For years, many Americans have been told that local cooperation with federal immigration authorities is somehow controversial. Yet here was a sheriff, someone responsible for protecting his community every single day, explaining that cooperation simply makes sense from a public safety standpoint. That matters because sheriffs deal with reality, not campaign slogans. They see repeat offenders. They respond to violent crime. They work with victims. They understand what happens when dangerous criminals are released back into communities. One issue discussed throughout the hearing was immigration detainer requests. These requests generally ask local authorities to notify federal immigration officials before releasing certain individuals from custody, so federal authorities have an opportunity to take them into custody if appropriate. Supporters argue that this process can allow transfers to happen while someone is already in custody, rather than requiring federal agents to search for that person after release. Critics have raised concerns about civil liberties, legal authority, and community trust, while supporters emphasize public safety and coordination between agencies. The congressman argued that honoring those requests involves little additional burden on local governments. He asked directly what extra cost existed in simply notifying federal authorities before releasing someone. The sheriff's answer was straightforward. He said there really wasn't one. Whether someone agrees with every aspect of immigration policy or not, this exchange highlighted a genuine policy disagreement about how law enforcement resources should be used. The hearing also explored an argument that many conservatives have made for years. If federal immigration officers cannot take custody of someone while that individual is already inside a jail, agents may instead have to locate that individual later within the broader community. Supporters of closer cooperation argue this can create greater risks for officers, the public, and the individuals being sought. That is an argument worth considering seriously. Law enforcement officers consistently say that making arrests inside secure detention facilities is often safer than conducting operations in neighborhoods, apartment complexes, or workplaces. That isn't about politics. That's about operational reality. But the hearing became even more emotional when family members described the deaths of their loved ones. One witness discussed the man convicted of killing her daughter. According to testimony during the hearing, the individual had previously been encountered by Border Patrol and reportedly indicated he was not seeking asylum and did not express fear of returning to another country. Lawmakers argued that he was nevertheless released into the United States under the policies in place at the time. Another witness described how the individual responsible for killing his daughter had allegedly re-entered the country using false documents and aliases. Listening to parents talk about losing children is devastating regardless of political affiliation. No parent should ever have to sit before Congress describing how they buried their son or daughter. No mother should ever have to relive those moments because government systems failed. No father should ever have to explain why his child never came home. These families were not speaking as political strategists. They were speaking as grieving parents. And that is why hearings like this resonate with millions of Americans. The congressman then walked through what he believed was a chain of failures. According to testimony presented during the hearing, after one individual was later charged with another offense, local authorities released him without federal immigration officials being notified. He allegedly failed to appear for court, and lawmakers questioned why immigration authorities had not been contacted. That sequence formed the central argument of the hearing. Supporters of stronger immigration enforcement believe earlier cooperation between local and federal authorities could prevent some repeat offenses. Others argue immigration policy is more complicated and involves balancing constitutional protections, due process, local policing priorities, and community trust. Regardless of where someone falls on those broader policy questions, it is understandable why these individual cases have become central to the national debate. When tragedies occur, Americans naturally ask whether anything could have prevented them. As conservatives, we often return to one principle. Government has many responsibilities, but protecting its citizens is among its most fundamental duties. Without public safety, everything else becomes harder. Families cannot feel secure. Businesses struggle. Communities lose confidence. Law enforcement becomes overwhelmed. That is why border security remains such a significant issue for many voters. This hearing also highlighted something that often gets overlooked. The sheriff wasn't asking for less accountability. He was asking for the ability to work alongside federal authorities. That distinction matters. There is a difference between expanding government power indiscriminately and improving coordination among agencies that already have legal responsibilities. Throughout the hearing, the congressman repeatedly described the issue as one of common sense. Whether viewers agree with that characterization or not, it reflects a broader political message many conservatives have been emphasizing. Policies should be evaluated by their real-world outcomes rather than by partisan labels. Americans are capable of having honest conversations about immigration. Most people understand that America is a nation built by immigrants. Most also understand that immigration laws exist for a reason. Those two ideas are not mutually exclusive. The United States has long welcomed lawful immigration while also maintaining laws governing who may enter and remain in the country. Many Americans believe both principles can coexist. One can support legal immigration while also supporting enforcement of immigration laws. One can value compassion while also emphasizing public safety. One can recognize the contributions of immigrants while still believing the border should be secure. Those positions are not necessarily contradictions. They are part of an ongoing national debate about how best to balance competing priorities. As I watched this hearing, I couldn't help but think about the broader responsibility of elected officials. Politics often becomes consumed with slogans. Hearings like this remind us that behind every policy are real families whose lives can be permanently changed. Every vote has consequences. Every law has consequences. Every enforcement decision has consequences. The emotional testimony from grieving parents serves as a reminder that policy debates are not abstract exercises. They affect real communities and real people. That is why Americans should pay close attention to discussions like this instead of relying only on headlines or social media clips. Whether you ultimately support or oppose sanctuary policies, understanding the arguments on both sides is essential for informed civic participation. At Freedom Forge, we'll continue covering these hearings in full, examining the arguments presented, and encouraging respectful discussion about the issues shaping the country. I'd like to hear from you. Do you believe local law enforcement should have greater flexibility to cooperate with federal immigration authorities? Do you think current policies strike the right balance? Or should Congress consider changes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please keep the discussion respectful and focused on the issues. If you found this analysis informative, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Freedom Forge, and turn on notifications so you never miss our coverage of the biggest hearings, the most important policy debates, and the constitutional issues shaping America's future. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.